After a wild weekend with the man my husband knew nothing about, I walked into my living room and froze. My husband, my in-laws, and my boss's wife were seated quietly, eyes on me. My husband picked up a remote, smiled, and said, "Shall we watch?" The TV clicked on, and my life crashed down around me. I never thought I'd be the one to write something like this, but here I am. I'm a 38-year-old woman from Chicago, married to David for 12 years. David's an architect, often buried in his projects, and I run a small marketing firm downtown. Our life together has been, for the most part, steady and predictable. Last Friday, David told me he'd be in Milwaukee for a weekend conference. He kissed me goodbye that morning, leaving me with an entire weekend to myself. The idea of having the apartment to myself was both exciting and a bit daunting. That evening, I decided to visit the Green Mill, a historic jazz club in Uptown. The place has this old-world charm, with dim lighting and vintage decor. It's been around since 1907 and has a rich history with jazz legends and even some mob connections. I found a seat at the bar and ordered a martini. As I was sipping my drink, a man approached me. He introduced himself as Marcus, a 40-year-old entrepreneur from New York. He was tall, with a confident demeanor and an easy smile. We started talking, and the conversation flowed effortlessly. We discussed everything from art to travel, and I found myself drawn to his charisma. One drink led to another, and before I knew it, we were sharing a cab back to his hotel, the Langham. The Langham is a luxurious hotel located along the Chicago River, occupying the first 12 floors of a landmark building designed by Mies van der Rohe. The rooms are spacious, with floor-to-ceiling windows offering stunning views of the city. The weekend was a blur of passion and excitement. We dined at some of Chicago's finest restaurants, took late-night walks along Navy Pier, and enjoyed the attractions there. Navy Pier is a 50-acre waterfront destination with shops, restaurants, and entertainment options. We rode the Centennial Wheel, a 200-foot-tall Ferris, while offering panoramic views of the city and Lake Michigan. For those 2 days, I felt like I was living someone else's life. By Sunday evening, guilt started to creep in. I told Marcus that I needed to go home. He seemed understanding and didn't press me to stay. As I entered our apartment in Lincoln Park, the familiar scent of home hit me, and I felt a wave of remorse. But nothing could have prepared me for what awaited inside. As I stepped into the living room, I saw David sitting on the couch. Beside him were his parents and, to my surprise, my boss's wife, Clara. The room was silent, their eyes fixed on me. David picked up the remote control and, with a faint smile, said, "Shall we watch?" He turned on the TV, and to my horror, footage of me and Marcus entering the Langham filled the screen. Every intimate moment was there, captured in excruciating detail. "David, I can explain," I stammered, my mind racing for an explanation. He raised his hand to stop me. "Save it," he said, his voice cold. "Clara hired a private investigator. Marcus has a habit of seducing married women. She suspected her sister was involved with him and wanted proof." I glanced at Clara, who looked away. David continued, "Imagine her surprise when she found you instead." Tears welled up in my eyes. "David, I'm so sorry. It was a mistake." His mother spoke up, her voice filled with disdain. "A mistake? You call betraying my son a mistake?" I felt the weight of their judgment. "I never meant to hurt anyone," I whispered. David's father shook his head. "Actions have consequences," he muttered. David stood up. "I've packed some of your things," he said, nodding toward a suitcase by the door. "I think it's best if you stay elsewhere for a while." "Please, David," I pleaded. "Let's talk about this." He met my gaze, his eyes cold. "I don't see how," he replied. "Trust, once broken, is hard to mend." Clara stood, placing a hand on David's shoulder. "I'll take her," she offered. "She can stay at our place tonight." David nodded, not looking at me. "Fine." The drive to Clara's house in Evanston was silent. I stared out the window, tears streaming down my face. Once inside, Clara handed me a glass of water. "Why?" she asked softly. I shook my head, unable to find the words. "I don't know." I felt lost. She sighed. Desire is fleeting. Was it worth it? I looked down, shame washing over me. No, I admitted. I've destroyed everything. Over the next few days, I tried reaching out to David, but my calls went unanswered. I wrote letters, pouring out my remorse, but received no response. One evening, I returned to our apartment to find the locks changed and a note taped to the door. It was from David, informing me that he had filed for divorce and that further communication should be through our lawyers. The finality of it all hit me hard. I had not only lost my husband, but also the life we had built together. Friends we shared distanced themselves, and whispers followed me wherever I went. I moved into a small apartment in Wicker Park, trying to piece my life back together. Nights were the hardest, the silence a constant reminder of my betrayal. Months later, I heard through mutual friends that David had moved on, seeing someone new. While it pained me, I knew he deserved happiness. As for me, the road to self-forgiveness is long and arduous. I've sought therapy, trying to understand my actions and ensure I never repeat such mistakes. Trust, once shattered, is nearly impossible to rebuild. A month after I moved into my small Wicker Park apartment, I was still trying to figure out how to live with the mess I made. Most days I barely spoke to anyone. I went to work, came home, ate cereal or whatever I had in the fridge, and laid in bed staring at the ceiling. The silence wasn't peaceful. It was loud and cruel. Then something unexpected happened. It was a Thursday morning. Rainy. I was sitting at my desk at work, staring at a blank spreadsheet when my receptionist buzzed through. "There's a man here asking for you," she said, her voice uncertain. "He says his name is Marcus." My stomach dropped. I hadn't heard from Marcus since I left his hotel that Sunday night. My heart started racing. I told her to send him up before I even thought about it. 5 minutes later, he walked through the door like he owned the place. He looked different. Less polished. Tired. Maybe even nervous. "I didn't know where else to go," he said quietly. I just stared at him. "You shouldn't be here." "I know," he said. "But I needed to talk to you." He sat down across from me, looking right into my eyes. "Clara is lying to you," he said. "That investigator? That video? It wasn't hers. It was your husband's idea. He hired someone weeks before the weekend." I felt like the air was sucked out of the room. "What are you talking about?" I asked, my voice shaking. He nodded slowly. "He suspected you for months. He had you followed. Clara didn't find anything. David did. And he asked her to pretend it was hers. To protect his image. To make it look like this wasn't all about you. He wanted to control the narrative." I wanted to scream, cry, run something. Anything. Instead, I sat there frozen. "He told me who you were the moment I approached you at the bar," Marcus continued. "He paid me. That part broke me." "What?" "I was supposed to flirt with you. Get close. See what you'd do. But I didn't expect to actually. I didn't plan to care. But I did. That weekend wasn't fake for me." I stood up, backing away from my desk. "Get out," I said, my voice low and shaky. "Get the hell out." He didn't argue. He just nodded, stood, and walked out without another word. The next few days, I couldn't focus. I kept going over everything in my head. It made no sense. Why would David do that? Why not just ask me if he was suspicious? That weekend, I drove to Evanston and parked outside Clara's house. I didn't call. I just walked up and knocked on the door. She opened it and looked surprised to see me. "Can we talk?" I asked. She hesitated, then stepped aside to let me in. I got right to it. "Did David hire the investigator?" "Not you." She paused, then walked to the kitchen. She poured herself a glass of water. Her hands were shaking. "I didn't want to be involved," she said finally. "He begged me. Said it would help him handle it better if it came from me. Said it would be easier for you. Why would he pay Marcus to seduce me?" She looked up sharply. "He what?" I stared at her, confused. "You didn't know?" She shook her head. "No. I had no idea about that. I thought Marcus was just some guy you met. David said he found out later, after you left." Clara sat down at the kitchen table. Maybe he's not as honest as he pretended to be. That night, I couldn't sleep. I tossed and turned until 2 a.m. when I finally grabbed my phone and texted Marcus. Me, you said David paid you. How much? He responded in seconds. Marcus, $10,000. I never cashed the second half. I stared at the screen, shaking. I couldn't ignore it anymore. I needed to know the full truth. So I did something I never thought I would. I called David. He answered after 3 rings. His voice was calm, controlled, cold. What do you want? I know, I said. About Marcus. About the investigator. I know everything. There was a long silence. Then he sighed. And? Why? I asked. Why would you do that to me? Another pause. Then he said something I'll never forget. Because I needed to prove I was right. I couldn't live with the feeling anymore. I wanted you to fail. And you did. I sat there stunned. He didn't sound angry. He sounded satisfied. You set me up, I said. No. I gave you the chance to prove me wrong. You didn't. He hung up. I sat in the dark for what felt like hours. My hands were shaking. My heart was pounding. This wasn't just about cheating anymore. This was something else. Something darker. David hadn't just been suspicious, he'd laid a trap. He wanted me to fall into it. And I did. But why? And what else didn't I know? The next week, I couldn't function. Everything that had happened played over in my head like a bad movie. David's calm voice on the phone, Marcus's confession, Clara's shaky hands. The way David said, I gave you the chance to prove me wrong. It wasn't just betrayal, it was a game. And I was the pawn. I started digging. Not because I thought I could fix anything, but because I needed to understand. Needed something to hold on to. That's when I found out the second twist. A former coworker of David's, let's call him Leo, sent me a message on LinkedIn of all places. It said, you don't know me well, but I think you deserve to know what he's capable of. David. He did something similar to someone else. Before you. My heart skipped. I messaged him back immediately. Leo agreed to meet for coffee at a place in River North. He looked nervous as hell, constantly checking the door behind him. Listen, he said, leaning in, this is going to sound crazy, but he did this before. With his ex, Melanie. You ever hear about her? No, I said. He told me he had a long relationship before me, but it ended because she cheated. Leo shook his head. She did. But he made it happen. Same playbook. He got someone close to her, set the whole thing up, recorded it. Then made it seem like she was unstable, emotionally manipulative. Everyone believed him. Even me. But later, I figured it out. And I stayed quiet. That's on me. I stared at him in disbelief. He engineered her cheating? Leo nodded. He gets into your head. He'll pick at little things, your insecurity, your loneliness, until you start questioning yourself. Then he gives you just enough rope. I felt physically ill. So I wasn't his first target. No, Leo said. And I doubt you'll be the last. After that, I started thinking back on the last 2 years of our marriage. The subtle digs. The way he made me feel guilty for wanting more attention. The way he acted like I was the one slipping away. Maybe I was. But now I wondered if that distance hadn't been natural, it was created. I tried confronting David again. I texted, called. No response. Then one night, I got a text from an unknown number. It was a video clip. It was a video of Marcus talking to David. Hidden camera. A restaurant. Their voices were low, but clear. David, she's lonely. All you have to do is be charming. She'll take the bait. Marcus. What if she doesn't? David, then she proves me wrong. But I don't think she will. I dropped the phone. That video, it changed everything. I sent it to Clara. She called me 5 minutes later, sounding shaken. I'm sorry, she said. I had no idea. You didn't know he paid Marcus? No, she whispered. I thought he was just suspicious. But this is sick. Later that week, Clara met me again, this time with a manila envelope in her purse. She looked nervous. I shouldn't be doing this, she said. But you deserve to know. Inside the envelope were printed emails between David and a woman named Kendra, and photos. Intimate ones. From a condo in West Loop. Clara explained, that's his assistant. She works at the new firm he's with. They've been seeing each other for over a year. I laughed. A sharp, humorless sound. So while he was engineering my fall, he was cheating too? Clara nodded. It gets worse. Kendra's not just some fling. She's pregnant. I sat there stunned. I couldn't breathe. David had destroyed my life, gaslit me, made me feel like a monster, while he was having an affair and planning a future with someone else. And now he was about to become a father. I don't know how long I sat in that coffee shop, staring at the envelope, before I stood up and walked out into the cold Chicago air. My phone buzzed again. Another message from Marcus. Marcus, if you want to really expose him, I still have the rest of the footage. Everything. Your call. And for the first time in a long while, I didn't feel helpless. I felt something else. I felt fire. I didn't answer Marcus right away. I needed time. But deep down, I already knew what I was going to do. I spent the next few days putting everything together. His voice in the recording, the emails with Kendra, the surveillance footage, the confession from Leo, the silent betrayals layered between the lines. David had spun an entire web just to watch me fall. He wanted me to cheat. He needed it. I planned the confrontation carefully. Clara helped. She said if I was going to expose him, it needed to happen somewhere he couldn't control the story. So I picked his firm's end-of-quarter party. It was going to be held at a hotel ballroom downtown, not far from where he'd first told me he'd be in Milwaukee. The irony wasn't lost on me. Everyone from the firm would be there. His bosses, his colleagues, his clients, and Kendra. Clara got me a +1 through her husband, who was also invited. The night of the party, I walked in wearing a black dress I used to wear when David and I were happy. I hadn't touched it in 2 years. It still fit. It reminded me of the woman I used to be. When I saw him across the room, laughing with his coworkers, drink in hand, I almost turned back. But Clara squeezed my arm and whispered, "He doesn't get to win." I walked straight up to him. He froze when he saw me. "Kendra's not here yet?" I asked, loud enough for the surrounding group to hear. His face dropped. "What are you doing here?" "Thought I'd celebrate," I said. "After all, you did get everything you wanted." "Leave," he said under his breath. "No." But I didn't. I reached into my bag and pulled out a small flash drive. "Anyone want to see how David wins arguments with women?" I said. "It's quite the production." He lunged forward, trying to grab it, but Clara stepped between us. "I've already given it to your boss," she said. Right then, his firm's director, an older man named Simon, walked up. He held the drive in his hand. "David," Simon said. "Why don't we step outside?" David's face turned pale. "This is out of context." "Then explain it," I said. "Explain the hidden cameras. Explain paying Marcus $10,000 to seduce your wife. Explain the affair. The pregnancy." People around us gasped. I saw someone whisper into their phone. Another coworker covered her mouth. Kendra showed up just then. Her face was already confused. And then she saw me, and her expression changed. She looked at David. He looked back, and in that moment, you could see everything break down between them two. "I didn't know about the cameras," she said slowly, stepping away from him. "You said she cheated on you." "She did," he snapped. "Because you set her up," Clara said, her voice ice cold. David's calm shattered. "She was going to do it anyway. She was pulling away from me for months. I just wanted proof." I cut in. "Or did you just need to punish someone because you couldn't stand feeling insecure?" The room was silent. All eyes on him. David looked around, chest heaving. He was trapped. Exposed. Not just as a victim of infidelity, but as the mastermind of it. The manipulator. The man who couldn't trust love enough to let it be real. Then he did what cowards do. He stormed out. No apology. No last words. Just silence and the sound of his shoes on the ballroom floor. Kendra followed slowly behind, shaking her head. The crowd eventually thinned. Simon came up to me quietly. I'm sorry you went through that, he said. I'll make sure he's held accountable here. Clara hugged me tight. You did it. But I didn't feel victorious. I felt hollow. In the days that followed, the fallout was fast. David was asked to take a leave of absence. Word spread fast, not just about what he did to me, but the affair, the manipulation, the setup. His reputation, carefully curated over years, crumbled in a week. Kendra didn't speak to me again, but I heard through Clara she was keeping the baby. Alone. I didn't feel sorry for David. But I didn't feel angry anymore either. I just felt done. The divorce finalized 2 months later. No fight, no courtroom drama. I let him keep most of the assets. I didn't want anything that reminded me of the years I spent trying to love someone who never saw me as a partner, just a potential threat to control. Marcus emailed me again. I never replied. He was just another piece on David's board. As for me, I'm learning. I'm rebuilding. I've started going to therapy, not just for what I did, but for why I let myself become so lost. Why I ignored my gut. Why I confused control with care. I go to the Green Mill sometimes, but not to drink or flirt. I just sit there. Listen to the music. Remember who I used to be before I got caught in a game I didn't even know I was playing. I'm not sure what comes next. I'm not rushing to figure it out. But I know one thing now. No one gets to write my story but me. And this time, I'm not playing by anyone else's script.